He covers the Browns for the Chronicle Telegram, brownzone.com, where you can read all of his work. He's Mr. Scott Petrak. Scott, good Monday to you, sir.
Hi, fellas. What's going on?
LeBron's always wanted to play football. You think the Browns are in?
They could probably use another tight end to complement Harold Finn Jr.
I
Sure.
would think so. I would think that's a possibility. So what do you do to prepare for the start of training camp? Yeah, you hydrate? What do you do?
Yeah. I try to have as much fun as possible because I can't count on that happening once training camp starts. And then it's all thinking about, what I have to write the next couple of weeks as a intro to training camp, battles to watch, guys to watch, storylines, all that kind of stuff. And then what we're going to focus on besides quarterback when we get out to that first practice in a couple of weeks.
So give me, as you talk about the focus, and I was like trying to think of other storylines going, the offensive line to me, I've been talking about for a while, is to me is intriguing, I guess is probably the most optimistic thing I'll say, because you got 5 new guys on the offensive line. What is a realistic expectation for this offensive line that we're about to see? And I mean, do you feel better? I know I feel healthier about the guys they have on line. I don't know that I feel better about 5 new guys playing offensive line.
Yeah, it's interesting. I feel better because of the health. So I think those are intermingled. I don't know if I would doubt that Zion Johnson is better than Joe Bitonio, especially Joe Bitonio in his prime. And I thought Bitonio still played at a high level last year. But Jack Conklin couldn't get on the field last year. So Titus Howard should be an upgrade over there. We still have to see how center shakes out. I thought Ethan Posey was pretty good. So I don't know if that guy will be better. If it's Elton Jenkins, then probably, but is Elton Jenkins going to play right guard? In Wyatt Teller, I thought was up and down last year, and then he got hurt. And then left tackle, was a mess with injuries and everything. So I assume, and he better be, Spencer Fano better be better at left tackle. So I think as a unit, I have optimism that they will stay healthier, that they will be better. I like the infusion of youth with Fano, and maybe it's Parker Brailsford at center. We still have to see that. Obviously, Zion Johnson's younger at left guard than Joel was. So I do think there's reason to think this line will be better.
To me, they replaced unhealthy guys with healthy guys. And whether the healthy guys have better skill sets than the guys who weren't healthy, I don't think so. But it doesn't matter if your skill set's better if you're not on the field. And that's the end of the situation.
Yeah, I agree. And I think it's individual, right? Like Fano should be better than whoever was playing left tackle a year ago.
Yep.
Jack Conklin in his prime was really good. He's probably better than Titus Howard, but he hasn't been in his prime in a while, and he was hurt. So I do think the age and injuries are the biggest factors because, going into last year, those were the questions. If not, it would have been a real solid line, but all that stuff caught up to it.
What do you think of George Warhop coming back to coach these guys? Does I kind of feel like I feel like we've had really strong offensive line coaching, and then maybe it tailed off a little, and now all of a sudden you're here again. So
I think that's exactly right. Bill Callahan obviously was missed for those last couple of years. And I thought Mike Bloomgren was fine. Last year did a good job. He's a respected guy.
Mm-hmm.
And in the last 2 years, really, the guys have had a really tough hand dealt to them. But George Warhop, when Joe Thomas says he's the favorite line coach he's ever had, that carries so much weight. So, I remember Warhop a little bit from the first time he was here. He's been around for a long, long time. I think that was a huge hire for Todd Monken, and I think it will reap benefits.
Is Andrew Berry, is he golden? Is he locked in here? Last year's draft has played out well. The draft that was just taken place, he's had great reviews for, even though nobody's played a game yet. It's weird to me that such a difference was made between the status of Kevin Stefanski and Andrew Berry after they were both responsible for what's happened the last couple of years. And it makes me think that Andrew's locked in here.
Yeah, how many times have we talked about it? At the time, I thought they should have been connected. Obviously, the Haslam's felt differently. It's a great question. I get that a lot when I'm out and about Andrew Berry. Things change so quickly in this league, and if they're 2-15 this year, then anything's on the table. I think, and I think it's hard to say, there's any certainties. And if Todd Monken struggles, and that was a Andrew Berry hire, right? So I'm not willing to say that he's going to be here the next decade, but I know the Haslams really like him, and for good reason. He's a smart guy.
Sure.
He represents the organization really well. I think they like having him as kind of the face of the organization. He's still young. I think he has gotten better. I think there's reason to believe he will continue to get better. We've seen that he's aggressive in trades, and I think that's the way you have to operate in today's sports world, especially the NFL. So, I would say that Andrew Berry is really liked inside the organization. That means that he's probably going to be here for a long time. And as long as he keeps drafting well, and we know what last year was, and you talked about this year, looks like it's going to be good, then that's huge. And then the next question is, can you figure out the quarterback? Because until that happens, at some point, it's forget about the draft picks, forget about the rest of the roster. It's, can you win because you have the quarterback? And he's been yet to solve that.
So let me ask the same question, but with Todd Monken instead. Yeah. And how do you think Todd Monken's looking at this quarterback situation based on what we've seen so far with minicamp and OTAs, and then what's it going to look like going into camp?
Yeah, I mean, if, as far as Todd Golden, I mean, it's first year. We've seen coaches get fired after 1 year, so again, nothing's off the table. I know they like Todd. It's a 5-year contract, right? So that doesn't lead you to think that it's a short-term solution with him. They're confident that he's going to help fix the offense, and that includes quarterback. And that was where the team was really let down the last 2 years. If the offense had been better, the results would have been better. The win-loss record would have been better. So that's the hope for Todd Monken. As far as the quarterbacks, I keep coming back to there's two things. Is one, he's going to want to play the guy that gives him the best chance to win.
Yep.
He's 60 years old, head coach for the first time. Is there a comfort level with it being Deshaun Watson, given his experience compared to Shedeur Sanders? Yeah, I think that is a factor in this competition. I personally keep going to the fact that go with the younger guy, go with the guy who's under contract. Watson hasn't stayed healthy. All the things we've talked about a billion times. But, if it all comes down to who gives you the better chance as Todd Monken to win week one, maybe it's that simple. And maybe it should be that simple. And, I could see how that could end up being Watson over Sanders.
Scott Petrak joining us, Chronicle Telegram, brownzone.com. We've been kicking around this depth chart, the roster for the Browns since the draft and everything else, and we all can't wait to see it on the field. It looks like everything except quarterback on the offense is penciled in as who your starter is going to be, with young guys and on the offensive line, maybe just juggling exactly where somebody's going to play.
Sure.
But in Baltimore, Todd Monken had two really good tight ends in Mark Andrews and Isaiah Likely. Here, you mentioned right off the bat, Harold Fannin. I wonder how much he's going to use tight end here. And are they comfortable with Jack Stoll, Joe Royer, Blake Whiteheart as the backups?
Yeah, I think there's going to be a lot of tight end. They went after Charlie Kohler in the offseason. He wound up signing a huge deal for a guy that, had barely had any catches, but Todd Monken knew him from Baltimore. So I think there is a desire to use two tight ends. You see that more and more across the league. Kevin Stefanski did a ton of that. So I think you will. Plus, Fannin was proud of the way he blocked last year because that was a question mark for him coming out of Bowling Green. But he's not a true inline blocker. So I think to use Fannin to the best of his capabilities, it means having another guy out there that's more concentrated on blocking. So, I liked what Blake Whiteheart showed last year. There were a couple plays that really stood out to me.
Had some moments, didn't he?
Yeah. Yeah, he did. And I tell you what, I saw him a lot in the OTAs and minicamp. He showed up a lot. And, part of that was because Fannin wasn't practicing with an injury. But I think Whiteheart has a chance to be a contributor to this team. And then you talk about the rookies. And, is one of those rookies going to line up is a fullback a little bit. I could see that. But I think they're okay. They have some depth at that position, but I have little doubt that we're going to see a lot of 2 tight end formations.
Just as far as going into camp then, in years past, we've seen camp cupcake and we've seen camps that are brutal. I would think that because the roster is so young for the most part, that this is not going to be one of the easier camps in the NFL. True or false?
No, I think that's 100% true,
Okay.
Andy. And it's the youth of the roster is one of the things. I think when you have a new coach, how many times have you heard that it's easier to back off the team than to step on the gas?
Yeah.
So I don't think you can come in and, okay, we're going to take it easy, and then you look around and go, hey, I don't like how these guys are prepared, and then say, okay, we're going to practice for 2.5 hours today. That just doesn't go over well, so I think you got to come out of the gate kind of jamming. And if you look at the training camp schedule, I don't know if it's out there for everybody, but with the media schedule, I think there's practice 11 of the first 12 days. So that sets a pretty significant tone, because I do not remember Kevin Stefanski having that kind of, workload in the first 2 weeks of camp.
Sure.
All right, buddy, hit him straight. You got another 10 days.
Oh, must have hit him straight already.
Scott already hit him straight. He went to play golf.
Oh, there he is. Okay.
Thanks, bud. Appreciate your time.
Later, man.
Thanks, guys. Thank you.
Scott Petrak.